A 5-year-old little girl was talking to classmates about playing with her Hello Kitty bubble gun, which blows soap bubbles.
Well, it can get in your eye, and then you can have a serious eye injury.
And have to wear glasses.
That's what happened.
But it could be just that simple. We want to make an example out of her. We don't want anybody else to think that we're weak on this issue.
He's justifying it, and he's grabbing headlines because that's what politicians do.
Today we're going to be doing the Steyr AUG.
Thanks for tuning in to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, coming to you from the gun store in Las Vegas. This program is all about guns, politics, and self-defense. On this edition, the panel will discuss in Baltimore, Florida, a bank manager was fired for bringing her gun to work. No harm, no shots fired. She has a CCW. She had her gun in her purse when she came to work. A little later, we're going to talk about a new law being put into the hopper by a Pennsylvania state legislator, which will require mental health checks on gun buyers or anyone who shares a residence with a gun owner. Interesting. Zero tolerance rules we've talked about numerous times. Finally, someone is trying to do something about it in Florida. They have a bill in which will prevent schools from suspending kids for pointing their fingers at each other and saying bang. We look forward to seeing that changed. This first story deals with a kind of what I view as a nonsensical company rule that caused a bank manager to lose her job. It seems Florida law, in the opinion of her attorney, allows carry, but the bank policy manual does not.
So the policy manual overrides state law? I mean, I understand like our employees are allowed to drink, but they can't be drunk at work. Like I understand that separation, but that's a little...
It's a little more complex than that. What's going on here is that Florida has a very strict CCW statute. Until very recently, just having the wind blow your coat back and expose your firearm was considered to be flashing the gun. It was a criminal charge. They actually went back and rewrote their law so that inadvertent exposure like that didn't violate the law, but they don't have open carry. So you either carry concealed or you don't carry. The problem was people wanted to be able to go to places where they can't carry, but take their gun off and leave it in their car. So they amended their law that says an employer can't terminate you so long as your vehicle is in the parking lot and the firearm is in your vehicle. The real challenge here is regular people with CCW, nothing in the Florida law says if you have a CCW you can't go to the bank and do banking. So now what we've got is disparate measures for different people. You work there, you can't carry your gun in, and it really comes down to private property, private business rights. The business on their property has the right to say what their employees can and can't do. If you don't like it, it's an at-will state. You don't have to work there.
I don't know. This seems to be an overreach by an employer. I mean, if she has a legal CCW, she's complying with the law, she's exercising her right. Who the hell is this employer to say, we're more important than that state law? And I think this is an injustice. I hope that she is filing suit against them. I hope she wins a ton of money from, and in that case, I might actually like the lawyer that does it.
In the case of this law, the law says two different things in this particular case. You know, the bank, maybe the bank policy is not aware of what Florida law is. I mean, it's a Wells Fargo. It's a big bank, and maybe they're not aware of the local statutes. You know,
I'm pretty sure they're aware of the local statutes. What this comes down to is she's not sure how somebody found out she was carrying. And she told, was very honest about it. She has CCW. The bank is in a kind of a bad area. They've had some other banks in the immediate area robbed. She's the manager. She wants to protect her people and herself. And she said, sometimes I would leave it out in my car, which under the 2008 law would have been legal. But sometimes I would take it in. I guess this time it was in her purse. Somebody saw it somehow. She says she didn't show it to anybody. She didn't flash it. Somehow they did an investigation and she had it inside the building, which is a violation of their company policy. We've talked about this before. Convenience stores, taxi cab. I know here locally several taxi cab companies won't allow their drivers to carry firearms, even if they have a CCW. And it's because if they want to be employed, they have to follow the company policy.
Yeah, but you know what? Still, where's the humanity here? Okay, here's a woman that all she did was comply with the state law CCW permit. Okay, so even if she violated the company policy here, why would you terminate an employee for that as opposed to here's a warning? Don't do it again. I mean, why in God's name would you just chop her head off? Where's the compassion there? That's to me. It's just it's way above.
Like all things legal, I suspect there's way more to this than that. But it could be just that simple. We want to make an example out of her. We don't want anybody else to think that we're weak on this issue. And we have a zero tolerance policy. We hear about that in schools all the time. In fact, today we're going to be talking about some zero tolerance issues. Right. And this is probably just a zero tolerance. The company has a policy. She violated it. It's a termination offense.
And you know that there's most all banks. I mean, you don't see the no gun sign at the bank because with Bonnie and Clyde, why do you rob banks? That's where the money is, And so I mean, they're allowing people to come into the bank with guns, but like you said, she's an employee.
They specifically allow the customers
right.
to come in. It is not if I read this correctly, this is not a gun-free zone. No. The bank lets their customers carry. Right. The only people prohibited.
She was just on the wrong side of the counter.
People that work there are prohibited.
Well, I can recall.
It makes them sitting ducks.
I can recall going to a job interview right here in town at another gun shop years ago where they rented guns to tourists like we do, and but the employer says, well, I should, carry. He said, no, you can't carry a gun. I said, wait a minute, I'm going to give a loaded firearm machine gun to a tourist or whatever, and I can't carry a gun? He goes, not if I buy the company. I said, well, I'm not going to work. I'm sorry. That's just insane.
You can bring a high five to a gunfight? That is like the most unfairly matched.
Absolutely not. But I did, when I was a young rookie, though, a story very similar. There's a bank manager. A gentleman came in and held up the bank with a pirate flintlock, single shot, and he went in the bank and he goes, pow. This is a robbery. And the bank manager opens up his drawer, pulls out his Colt Python, and that was the end of that robbery right there. But I mean, incredibly stupid person. But anyway, I went in there and I could smell the black powder, and it was just, it was just disgusting. But it was very, very humorous. Actually,
got their attention, though.
Oh yeah, it got everybody's attention.
I'm looking at this though, but this isn't a question of law to me. This is a question of common sense. If the customers are allowed to carry, I mean, if the bank wants to say nobody brings a gun into a bank at all, that'll make her feel safe, But in this case, they're going the other way. Right. They let the customers carry, and they trust them more than they trust their own employees. And they don't know who they are. They don't have their name and address and what their background is that you have to be a bank manager. I'm sure she's been through one or two background checks here or there. And you're looking at, she's the only one in the room that's not allowed to have a gun. That just is nonsensical.
That's almost certainly part of her legal claims, is that it's an equal protection issue. You don't treat everybody the same. You treat us differently. However, I can see one issue that the bank can bring up, and that is this. I'll bet you, based upon the way our local banks are run, if this is in a bad neighborhood, I'll bet you those tellers are standing behind 3 inches of Lexan. And I'll bet you the people with a gun on the outside couldn't hurt anybody except for those in the lobby, and no employees are in the lobby.
The manager.
and the manager's not in the lobby. She's behind the Lexan. So their worry is we don't want guns back on this side except for, Shaky, the security officer, or whatever. I think she's got a great claim, and I would love to see her prevail on this because I agree with you. If she's a legal licensed carrier of a firearm, she shouldn't be treated any differently. But the company has a very strong defense. It's a at-will state. They get to decide what the policies of their company is. And so long as they don't discriminate on a privileged class, race, gender, ethnicity, then you're not going to have a problem.
I think that our viewers ought to keep this in mind, that that's Wells Fargo, and perhaps when you close your account and you tell them that's why.
Her attorney made a comment to the press that said she's a good person who elected to defend herself as she is constitutionally permitted. The Second Amendment is not a privilege, the attorney said. It's a freaking right.
Yeah, oh, I like him.
Be an attorney you
We'll
like.
be back after these couple messages. Don't go away.
He's justifying it, and he's grabbing headlines because that's what politicians do.
It's not people who live there, it's anyone who has access to the firearm.
How many psychologists is it going to take
An army.
to
To change a light bulb.
We are back here on Fired Up. Have you ever thought that gun laws could not get stupider? There's no other word for this. A representative named Ronald Waters in state of Pennsylvania, he's a state legislator guy, has proposed a new law that will require not only to outlaw assault rifles and magazines and so forth, the usual gook, but also requires mental checkups as part of a firearms background check.
It gets better. There's more. Now he wants detailed, regular mental checks on every person in the gun owner's residence. Also, all the kids and whoever may be living there. I presume this is just an effort to stop, little Timmy to take his mommy's gun to school. But I mean, mental checks on everybody who lives there has nothing to do with the purchase or ownership of the firearm.
So a government psychologist comes into the house on a regular basis and does mental health evaluations on even the children that are in the house.
Right.
So they're probably going to find a lot of depressed teenagers because what teenager isn't depressed at some point? And then they're going to find a bunch of 6-year-olds running around in their underwear talking to imaginary people. No parent is ever going to be able to have a gun because I've yet to find a kid that's sane. They're all nuts and beautiful and wonderful. But are you kidding me?
I know it.
Sad kids or crazy kids, get out of here. No parent's going to have a gun.
There is one individual that truly needs a psychological checkup.
It's
Ronald
District Waters.
Representative Ronald Waters.
Yeah.
He's got to be a mental midget to even consider some absurd legislation like this. And in his own mind, he's justifying it and he's grabbing headlines because that's what politicians do.
I Googled him.
Unfortunately, the psychological checkup aspect of this law is just one part of it. This is the normal across the board. He wants to ban everything that he calls military style weapons. And my question to him would be, which military and which year? Because if you want to go back far enough, just about everything we use has a military beginning and application. So, 10-shot magazines, no bayonet lugs, because so many people are being bayoneted to death these days, I guess. But it's just nuts. First of all, requiring somebody to undergo a psychological examination is what we tend to call prior restraint. We are making an assumption about them that is unfounded and requiring them to jump through hoops before they're allowed to exercise a right. And it's generally unconstitutional. So I really don't think this part of his bill has a chance. But Randy's right. The fact that he even thought to put it in there.
Well, in researching the bill, Mr. Waters said that they have 600,000 guns sold in the state every year or transferred in the state every year. So that would be 600,000, well, probably 300,000 people, most of them buy 2 guns, I would assume. So that's 300,000 people that are going to have everybody who lives in their house
Or has access to the
get.
firearm.
How many psychologists is it going to take
An army.
to
To change a light bulb.
What about like friends coming over or
That's the
long-term
problem. The
guests?
bill
Like,
actually is written broadly enough. It's not people who live there. It's anyone who has access to the firearm.
oh, you want to stay with me for Christmas? Sure. Have this mental evaluation, and then that's fine. I'll make the guest bedroom up.
So now we have states that have something called a FOID card, a firearms owner's identification card. Now we're going to have a psych card, right? You go to the gun club and somebody walks up to you and says, "Can I look at your firearm?" You have to ask, "Can I see your psychological profile card first before I can let you look at my firearm?"
Otherwise, that's a
Otherwise, it's
transfer,
a
of course.
transfer,
you know,
yes.
But you're looking at not only an enforcement impossibility, you're looking at how intrusive and how impossible is it to do psych exams on 500,000 people. How long does it take to do a psych exam where a mental health professional sits down with somebody and talks to them for what, 10 minutes? And then he says,
Oh, you're fine.
the guy's fine? They're not going to do that. Even if this could go, he's not going to do that. And then he gets sued if the guy goes out and does something stupid.
Probably be some kind of qualified immunity in there, but here's the dumb part. This is red meat for the anti-gunners.
We haven't even gotten to the dumb part yet.
This is the really dumb part. This is red meat for the anti-gunners. If they have enough votes in their House of Commons and their legislature to pass it, it'll pass. If their governor signs it, it'll become law. Then it will immediately come under litigation. It will cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and eventually a court will strip this portion out of the law. That's the really dumb part, is that everybody going in knows what it's political posturing.
Even on the face of it, the absurdity of this.
Right.
I mean, we're all looking. I mean, I think that all of us here have pretty much common sense, pretty much.
I can't tell if you're looking at me through those cool shades.
Let's not go too far into that one.
How did this even get put into
Right.
a
I mean,
bill?
you would think that-
Why didn't the boss of this district?
He
He
is the
doesn't have
boss.
one. He is the boss.
He's the state
But
representative.
I mean, he's got to have staff that's going to advise him on stuff like that.
And-
I mean, if,
Hey,
you
boss, you
your
sound
entire
stupid.
staff says, you know, maybe this isn't quite the.
You know what it is?
You know what he
Come
says?
on, give me a break. This
It's-
guy.
They're all sycophants.
Well,
That's what it is.
No.
All his
absolutely.
minions.
Most politicians surround themselves with people who see it their way. If they're bright, they have a contrarian on their staff to run it by. Hey, now what's the other side going to say about this? But in the end, he believes this. Every one of these anti-gun individuals who gets up and makes a fool of themselves on camera. I mean, as we've all heard, you know, the 30 caliber high capacity clip argument, the ghost gun, all of these things, they're catchphrases and they're red meat in a political year. The sad thing is, Pennsylvania is a blue enough state, and enough of the voters might go for this that it becomes like the Connecticut issue. Now we've got a fight going on over something that's unenforceable.
Well, his background in this is wrong. I mean, he's making wrong assumptions. It says in his preamble that given the high propensity of mass murderers to use these weapons to carry out the massacres, causes this law.
The military-style
Military-style weapons are virtually never used in mass shootings. You know,
and
there's
clubs
just lots
more
of
people.
stuff that's wrong. What he's doing is he's looking for Adam Lanza. We're going to go to everybody's house and talk to their teenagers to make sure that 10 minutes later he won't lose a video game and get mad and steal mom's gun and murder her and go out and shoot somebody. I mean, this is so far afield from actually stopping a crime. It is absolutely
But you see,
ludicrous.
this shows the character of this moron, that he's willing to take a tragedy like that and try and grab some headlines to get his picture on the newscast for making a proposal that will save lives.
Yeah.
And it's all it is posturing, and I think
I mean, you
he's
can't
just-
make
I
this
think he's
stuff
just
up. I mean,
replaced
you can't
Eric
make it up.
Holder in my mind.
Oh.
Everyone would
I knew you'd bring it
wondered
around
when we
there.
were going to get to Eric Holder.
Somehow.
Everyone would like to keep the guns out of the hands of people that are, that are mentally disturbed and that are going to. This is not the way to do
No.
it. This is not feasible. This is not practical. This is just not the correct way. I'm not paying the water bill. See?
I will not comply.
It's one of those things where you're absolutely right. Everybody wants to keep them, but there's no way to determine that unless it's an ongoing process. And it sounds to me from the bill like this is a at point of purchase type thing before you can buy a
Yeah,
firearm.
at the same time they do the background check, they would do the mental health check and then translate that out to everybody in your residence.
But only once.
No, he said on a regular basis.
So it is a recurring thing.
He said on a regular basis, but he didn't specify what that basis was. It
Flu
doesn't
shot?
say yearly,
Psych
weekly,
eval.
monthly, every decade. It just simply says regularly.
And it won't cost anything neither.
Of course not.
Well,
Well,
he
they
didn't-
have lots of money.
He didn't address the cost, but I'm, you know, there, Randy, every week I try to find something that is even stupider than what I found last
You are
week.
doing a hell of a job.
I read this thing and went, my God. And the guy's, I didn't want to put it out over the air, but the guy's office phone number is there. If you're, he
He's
represents
the 191st legislative district.
in Pennsylvania. It's a 215 area code. I'm sure you can find Ronald Waters. He's a legislator, been in, and he's going, it's his duty to be inclusive and address this petition, which will save lives.
Okay, I declare him moron of the week.
Yay, there you go.
We'll have that later on in the show. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Today we're going to be doing the Steyr AUG.
Hi, we're back at the Safari Club International show here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Mandalay Bay Convention Hall. This is the 42nd annual show, and it is a wonderful location to meet other sportsmen, conservation-minded individuals, and many of the companies that make firearms and hunting and outdoor activities possible. We're going to interview as many of them as we can today and bring to you what happens here at the SCI show. You can join Safari Club International by going to their website. Your contributions to Safari Club International guarantee future generations the ability to enjoy the outdoors here and abroad. Come with us as we explore Safari Club International. Hi, we're back here at the 42nd annual SCI convention. I'm with Barbara Fausti, who is one of the owners of Fausti Firearms from Italy.
Yes.
And they make some of the most exquisite shotguns, over, under, and side-by-sides. The subcalibers are on scaled actions. They are just a real pleasure to hold. Barbara, would you tell us a little bit about your guns?
Yes, we produce over and under and side by side in all the gauges from 12 to 410. And as you said, we are very proud to say that we make scaled frame. And also all the spare parts inside, they are perfect on the gauge. So if you get, for example, 28 gauge, you get a really 28 gauge frame. And this helps to make a perfect balance on the gun.
Now, are your firearms mostly handmade one at a time?
Yes, actually we have two lines. We have the Fausti Boutique line for the more exclusive shotguns, and we have the Fausti line for the core products. And the Fausti Boutique line, the customer, they can have the gun with their custom fitting stock.
So
and
for length of pull?
Yes.
And can they also select barrel lengths?
Yes, of course, because it's very important to choose the correct length of barrel on the base of the type of hunting you do, as well as the type of chokes. And here at SCI, we have, for example, our gunsmith that take the measure to the clients, and we can really build together with the customers our shotguns.
Now, if somebody ordered a shotgun and had custom measurements done, how long would it take for them to take delivery?
Yeah,
With custom
yeah.
guns, that can be a while sometimes.
Yes, right, correct. For our custom gun, it takes about from 7 months to 1 year. It depends on the model.
How long has Fausti been in the gun manufacturing business?
My father started the company in 1948, and so actually it's about 66 years we are on the market. And our company is from 22 years, guided by my sisters, Giovanna and Elena and I.
Now, I noticed you have a couple of firearms that aren't quite complete, what we call in the white.
You're right, yes.
And then you have several around the booth here that are complete, and I just noticed that the wood on all of these is wonderful. Do you have various grades of wood?
Yes, we have different level of wood. It depends, of course, on the model, but actually also our core products has a very nice wood on it.
Okay.
So
And
we are not able to do ugly guns.
not going to do any entry grade guns or just because, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have to be nice, right?
Yes, right. This is our idea.
Now, the other question I had for you is, for example, this firearm looks like it has a blued action, and this is a nickeled action.
Yeah.
And they're both engraved.
Yes, right.
Can-
This one is a Bone and Charcoal color case. It's something very special that is made with the bone of the animals, and is something very exclusive. And the other one is a silver coin where you can see better the engraving, because usually on the Bone and Charcoal you go to cover a little the engraving because it's more darker.
Absolutely. The absolutely beautiful firearms. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
talking to us,
Thank
Barbara.
you. Nice
You
to
have a
meet
good
you.
show, and if you want just a heirloom type shotgun that is designed for shooting and hunting, but will also look wonderful in your collection, give Fausti Firearms a consideration. It's a lifetime purchase. Well, we've had a great day here at Safari Club International at the Mandalay Bay, and on the way out we thought we would stop off and talk to Julie Freeman at the SCI PAC booth. Safari Club International as an organization promotes outdoor and hunting, but they have a political action committee arm that's been formed to protect your rights to hunt. And unfortunately, Julie's holding one of the sweepstakes. If you had been here at this convention, you could have bought a ticket for $100, a chance at up to $50,000 in prizes, guns, hunts. But can individuals go to SCI PAC either online or mail in donations to support hunting, Julie?
Sure, they can. They could join the pack and they could go in and donate, outside of being here at the convention.
They could certainly come to next year's convention where you'll be doing this again, right?
Yes, we will. We would love to have them here. Absolutely.
Have you had a lot of people coming by and buying sweepstakes tickets today?
Been very successful.
That is-
Everyone's interested in winning. We have 4 winners, so that'll be wonderful.
That is great. Hey, take an opportunity to come down to the Safari Club International. Next year it will be in Reno, and the year after that I believe it comes back here to Las Vegas. But support SCI PAC. Julie is out here doing her best to protect your rights to hunt. Help us out. Join SCI. Donate to SCI PAC. We'll be back in a little bit.
Hi, this is Tony with the Gun Store in Las Vegas. Thanks for watching Fired Up with Bob. We're coming to you live here from the gun store on a range day, so you may hear some gunfire in the background, but that's what we're all about anyway. Today we're going to be doing the Steyr AUG, AUG, and it's an Austrian firearm. It's AUG means Army Universal Gewehr, or rifle, which is AUG. It was developed back in the 60s, and it's what they call a bullpup type design. In other words, the magazine goes back here. When you hold the firearm, your ejection port is right here close to your face. Very futuristic looking, however. It was designed back in the 60s, so it's been around quite a while. The sights are an integral scope mount made by Swarovski. This is the only sight that was available, and inside you'll see there's like a circle in there, and it was kind of unique for this particular type of gun. They went from a standard iron sight to the strictly optic. It has a quick detachable barrel. The barrel will come right off and it'll change. And of course the military ones were in select fire. And select fire means, of course, it's full auto. But it didn't have a selector switch on it. It was really weird. The trigger, if you pull the trigger back halfway, it would fire in semi-auto. If you pull the trigger back all the way, then it would automatically go into full auto, which was kind of unique. A lot of like the German MG34, they're belt fed. It had like a rocking trigger. If you rocked it one half, it would go full auto. The second half, it would go semi-auto. The trigger assembly is all back here, and everything is modular. You pull this out, this comes out, your trigger assembly comes out. It's a rotating bolt. A lot of the trigger components or hammer components are plastic surrounded by steel. The same thing with the receiver itself. There's steel and aluminum embedded into the polymer. This is the original version. This was the A1. It used their own proprietary magazine. However, because of the popularity in the United States, you could put change this particular portion and put an M16 standard AR-15 M16 magazine in it. The next version they came out with was the A2, and that eliminated this type of scope. There was another type of rail system came that you could put different types of sights. And then they went to the A3, which has the Picatinny rail on it. But basically, in appearance, there's some internal differences and changes and improvements, but basically they were all the same. This is a semi-auto version that is available in the United States, and it is also made by a company in the United States, also a directly copy of it. It was made by Steyr in Austria, and it was used by several military forces. It's Argentina, of course, Austria. It's used a lot in the Middle East also. You'll see it in a lot of the action movies also. I know in Expendables 2, when we did that, Jean-Claude Van Damme, the evil guy, the bad guy, he was using a Steyr. So it's very good for the movies because of the way it looks. It's very futuristic looking. However, the bullpup design has been around for a while, and even though it was designed in the 60s, it's still pretty popular today. We're going to shoot this one, and like I said, that's what we're here for. We like to have machine guns. But we're going to shoot this one. We're only going to take about 5 shots out of it, and it is semi-auto, just to show you how it works. Okay, this is a standard M16 PMag. We only got 5 rounds into it. We're going to insert it down here, and the charging lever is here. Chamber it up, and we're ready to go. As I said, this is semi-auto, so it's just going to be 5 quick bangs. Action stays back on the last shot. Magazine release is right there. It's a very pleasant gun to shoot. There's virtually no recoil at all on it, and it's kind of a unique gun. I'm not used to the bullpup type configuration, but a lot of people like it a lot, and I think it's a great little gun.
Hi, I'm Mike Rogers from the Gun Store. It's time for the Moron of the Week segment. We try to show you people being unsafe so that you won't. Better ways to do things, seek good instruction.
All right, I've been outside for the last 30 minutes showing my wife how to handle a gun, and I told her not to mess with it. And as you can see, she's not the best following directions, so just like she always does to me, tries to make fun of me. So now I'm going to get revenge, in the way any husband should. Good old leftover 4th of July. Now that is a husband's revenge.
You're an asshole.
Come on, baby.
There may be a better instructional technique for teaching safety than that, but I'll bet she never forgets. I wouldn't do that with my wife.
Sometimes the unthinkable happens and a firearm is lost or stolen. In either event, you need to make a report of that firearm's loss with the local police department, not only where the loss occurs, but if you live in a jurisdiction that requires registration, you should file some type of a report with your local law enforcement agency indicating that the firearm is no longer in your possession, that it was stolen or otherwise lost, and that if it is located, you would like it to be returned to you. Now, we previously talked about good record keeping, which includes photographs, a description of the firearm, and the firearm's unique serial number so that you can provide those to law enforcement. If you have any hesitation about telling law enforcement that you lost a firearm because you're worried about the legal implications, perhaps civil penalties if the wrong person has the firearm, it can be far worse if you don't and police come looking because the firearm's then been used in a crime or has been recovered under less than ideal circumstances. If you have a police report showing that you informed law enforcement, that you went out of your way to make sure they knew that the firearm was no longer in your possession, you should be protected. If not, it'll give your attorney a good starting place to make an argument on your behalf. Remember, if you lose a firearm through theft or just because it's lost, inform local law enforcement.
And we are back here on Fired Up. Over the last year or so, we have run a dozen stories about children being evicted from schools, suspended from schools, disciplined for using what an imaginary gun, a toy gun, a fake gun, a pencil to pretend it's a gun, because they have what they call a zero tolerance policy. Any incident that has anything to do with a firearm or could have to do with a firearm, they suspend the child. In many cases, they call the police, and they've actually handcuffed 70-year-olds. You've heard most of these stories around the country. Finally, someone is addressing that issue, and this is the state of Florida is about to eject some common sense into this garbage.
Yeah, actually, in the Florida House Education Committee is HB 7029, which is to stop principals and school administrators from hammering kids that are just playing, cops and robbers, or that, make a doodle of a gun of a, bad guy, good guy fight. Under this zero tolerance policy, this no tolerance policy that they have to kind of protect the kids from being traumatized for something that's seemingly innocent.
This garbage has gone on. It's beyond even reasonable understanding how these schools have put these Orwellian rules into play here. Now, finally, is this the first state that's actually got the common sense to put a legislative brake on these school districts?
Apparently it is. This is the first time this has happened, that a state has come in and said, this is so stupid.
It not only affects the little kids. Recently, a 16-year-old high school kid on a school bus wrestled a revolver away from another kid who was threatening to shoot somebody.
It's a real gun?
A real gun, right? Now, the kid's a hero. Guess what happened? They suspended him for being part of an incident, of the incident. They suspended him. He probably saved maybe one kid's life or another kid. Saved kids' lives, and he was involved in the incident, and they suspended him for it too. Crazy.
The problem is that school districts, they have various policies in place to stop violence and to discipline the kids when they violate, but the zero tolerance, the gun issues were all written with zero tolerance, and so the administrators feel like they have no option but to do that. It's just crazy talk to throw somebody like that out of school who saved lives, but the policies as they were written didn't have any leeway. And so you've got administrator, well, we have to do it because we have to equally apply
I don't buy
rules.
that. I don't buy that. There's human interpretation to everything. And now, these are the people that have the responsibilities for educating our children.
Right.
And they don't have the common sense to interpret a regulation.
And without devolving into a discussion about education and education unions and the rules and the people who are teaching our children, the problem really is that because they work within a political system, a hierarchy system, and they all want to keep their jobs, that they have lost their will to differentiate between real danger, real problems, and child's play. I had several friends who, when we all got out of college, several of them went to become school teachers, and they told me horror stories about stuff. I said, I could never be a school teacher because there'd be a fight, and I'd walk over and grab the two kids and bounce them off the wall. They're like, oh, you'd be charged with a crime. If there's a fight, we're not allowed to touch the kids. You're not allowed to break up a fight. I can't even envision that from back when I was at school. The coach would come into the lunchroom where we're having a little mini brawl, 4 or 5 of us going. He'd just come in and beat all of us, right? And stop it, kind of a thing. And that was that. And we'd all take our 2 days on the beach.
You wouldn't have politely yelled at him yelled at you, and you guys would have stopped your fight.
No. Coach Kutowski had a really good way about just tossing people, and he could make it stick, but. I
might have pulled out a
that.
Twinkie and gone bang.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
That we have one of those on page 3.
No, please, no.
There have been kids expelled for pointing a banana. There was a young man who was thrown out of school because somebody thought he'd chewed his pastry, his Pop-Tart into
Pop-Tart, but we don't want to use brand names.
Into
a Pop-Tart similar device.
Device. There was pencils that were pointed. Recently, a kid was suspended for pointing a finger in what they thought was a gun type. It's just crazy. Now, the law that has been written is going to stop some of that, and I liked the language. I read through it, and the language was really kind of neat because here's how specific they had to get. They said brandishing a partially consumed pastry or other food item. It's in their law. That's number 1.
They put it.
Okay, they put it in the law because
that was almost the first case of this, you recall.
Possession of a toy firearm or weapon with 2 inches or less overall length, because that's that kid who got. Well, no, that's the kid who got taken out because he had a GI Joe that had a revolver, a little pistol in a holster. Kicked out of school. Using your hand, vocalizing imaginary firearm weapons, drawing a picture or possessing an image of a firearm. What about the kids in high school who wear the NRA shirt? I support the NRA. That's a First Amendment issue and a Second Amendment issue.
I recently got an email from one of our clients from the store that had one of our souvenir T-shirts with our logo on it, with the MP5 on it, and from England, that his son, he brought the kid the shirt as a souvenir of Las Vegas and the gun store. And the kid got expelled from school for wearing one of our shirts. But this is England. Right, I figure, well, maybe they have, but the kid got expelled. He wrote, the guy,
So
I really felt bad.
Apparently, this lack of common sense is more than an American
problem.
problem.
It's global.
Yeah,
it's international.
It's global moronity.
Yeah. We've talked about most of these, and I'm just looking at this. A 10-year-old is arrested by police for showing a toy gun with an orange tip to a friend of his on the school bus. Video footage from the bus, of course, they have those, revealed he never pointed it at anybody, never made a threatening gesture, no one looked frightened or concerned. He was arrested, read his Miranda rights, charged with brandishing a weapon, fingerprinted and photographed at the police station, and then suspended. He's 10. Was suspended for 10 days.
You can't do that.
Please say no.
With a recommendation for expulsion, and the case was then assigned to a probation officer.
I recommend that the officer be suspended.
They couldn't have just given him time out?
That's not, but that's not my favorite one, Bob.
Go to your corner.
That's not my favorite toy gun issue. A 5-year-old little girl was talking to classmates about playing with her Hello Kitty bubble gun, which blows soap bubbles. They were laughing and talking and taking turns shooting each other with the bubbles. The school accused her of making terrorist threats, suspended her for 10 days, and told her parents the police might need to be involved. 5 years old, it's hot pink.
Where do we live?
has Hello Kitty stickers on it, and it blows bubbles.
Well, it can get in your eye, and then you can have a serious eye injury.
And have to wear
That's
glasses.
what happened.
Then he just mouthed off again. It's fine. I got the other eye. It's good.
You know, if you happen to be anybody anywhere in the United States that has some contact with a state legislator, school board member, you might want to pull up this Florida statute that's coming up that they have put together for their school rules, and maybe see if you can get it put into your school system so that we don't start hammering continue to hammer 5 and 6 year olds who point their finger, and kids play cowboys and Indians. This is
How are they to grow up and respect a system?
How do they grow up and respect the police when they get arrested for
Exactly.
pointing their finger at somebody?
Exactly.
You know, they use the police to scare the little kids. We're calling the police. You know, I mean, what is going on here? This is insanity again.
That's why we're here, to tell
point it
you
out.
about insanity.
Yes, as we all know. And we're going to have a water balloon flight right after this show is over, and all go to jail. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the show. We'll be back same time next week, same station. Please look us up. Thanks for watching.